Thank you, everybody. Yes, my name is Marta, and I will start today's talk by making you really uncomfortable, so I know you will be really excited from the start. Close your eyes for a second. When your eyes are closed, please imagine that it's not, and don't peek, I see you peeking. Please imagine that it's not me who's standing here in front of you today. It's you. You're about to give a talk in front of dozens of people who came here to dedicate their time, their money, and energy to listen to you. They expect you to say something innovative, to give you new ideas, or change your perspective in some way. That's a lot of pressure, right? You can feel your palms getting sweaty, your heart is pounding in your chest, your knees are getting weaker, and you're completely frozen. You can't even remember what your opening line was. That's why you made everybody close their eyes. It's a big pressure to talk about animal rights in front of all these people. And those are some big scary words like frozen, weak, unable to speak. Now open your eyes, look at me, and raise your hand if you felt a bit uneasy when you were imagining all that. Great, experiment worked. In a matter of seconds, even though I'm the one speaking in front of you today, I managed to make you feel uncomfortable. Now, public speaking is a powerful tool. Imagine what we can do with it when we don't want to make our colleagues or fellow activists nervous, but when we want to make other people care about the animals. The first time I felt like I had to speak up on behalf of the animals was 20 years ago. And it was the first time I spoke up publicly. When I was 8 years old, I was really passionate about maybe not farm animals, but about crocodiles and alligators. And my biggest dream was to become a herpetologist, which is a person who does research on reptiles. And my biggest hero was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. My heart broke into a million pieces when he died. But back to the letter. This is a letter posted in National Geographic. And I wrote it and sent it when I was 8 years old, because in my mind, the Polish magazine, the Polish National Geographic magazine, and the international TV station that aired The Crocodile Hunter was the same thing. So I wanted to tell them to repeat in every episode that people should not kill the animals. So the letter says, "Hi, my name is Marta, I'm 8 years old. Blah, blah, blah." There is some intro that's not important here. And the last sentence is, "I wish you would say in every episode that people would not kill nature or animals. Doesn't matter if those are insects, fish, or birds." Effective altruist from the start. Mammals were not included. And I'm sure that you will appreciate the drawings. So this is cute, right? And this was the first time I felt like I had to speak up. As activists, you will have many opportunities to speak up, to speak in public. And I say opportunities because I believe those are opportunities, not risks. You're not in the risk of speaking in public. But those are opportunities to speak on behalf of the animals during the protests, parliamentary meetings, corporate meetings, and many other occasions, for example, a conference like this one. So I believe that when you really want to speak up for what you fight for, in this case, for who you fight for the animals, you should never, and we should never as a movement, neglect communication. And public speaking is communication. Communication is one thing, one skill that we use every day in every area of our work, not only in public speaking, but in marketing, in fundraising, in corporate outreach, but also internally within ourselves, within our organization, within our community. So that's why it's important never to neglect it, Communication is our bridge to share world-changing ideas. I realize that public speaking is very stressful for most people, for the majority of people. And it's normal, because I'm standing here in front of you, you're looking right at me, and thousands of years ago, that would mean trouble. That would mean serious trouble. And so we all experience those evolutionary symptoms, right? Like I said in the beginning, sweaty palms, weak knees, shallow breathing, pounding heart. It's normal. It's our biological reactions to the stress, to the being exposed to something, in this case, to speaking in front of other people. But when you think of those reactions as something that is necessary to prepare you for this challenge, for this particular thing that you need to do, when you stop thinking about them as something that is an obstacle, the whole perspective changes. And having said that, I am not going to tell you, just don't be nervous, because in my opinion, it's worth as much as telling a depressed person, just don't be sad already. That's just not a very useful piece of advice. So what I will tell you to do, and I wish that we could do together today, is to shift our perspective a bit. Because when you change your mindset from, I'm at risk, I'm going to get hurt because people are staring at me, to, wow, that's really exciting. I get to talk to other people. I get to speak with other people. When you start seeing those biological reactions as your body telling you, wait, you're about to experience something important, so pay attention here, because this is going to be important, then your whole experience of public speaking changes. And it doesn't mean that you will not get those biological reactions. It just means that you will work with them and not against them. Stress is not going anywhere, and that's, the sooner we accept it, the sooner we're going to work better on public speaking. Stress management techniques vary from person to person. Generally speaking, we're not going to talk about stress management techniques today, because that's not the topic of our meeting. We're going to talk about confidence, but how can you get this confidence without managing your stress? You can't. So just 2 words about how to manage your stress. First of all, you need to observe yourself. There is no one recipe for every person. For me, what works best is deep belly breaths, and I do this every time I'm about to speak, whether I'm speaking like right now, giving a talk in front of a larger crowd, or if I'm talking to the media. Deep belly breaths help you not only calm yourself, but they also help you make your voice louder and steadier, which is another very useful quality when you speak in public. What you can do for yourself is observe how you react. If, for example, you're going to give a talk, what is more soothing to you? Is it talking to other people right before your talk? Or is it practicing your presentation in solitude? Is, for example, drinking a coffee hyping you up in a very positive way? My mic, sorry. Or is drinking a coffee making you even more anxious? See what works best for you and repeat those actions that are calming you down until they are an integral part of you. And don't try to copy anyone else. Everybody's different. Everybody's body reacts a bit differently, and everybody's mind reacts a bit differently. Another thing you can do to feel more at ease is preparing. And here, I know it seems obvious, but I want to say in this particular context, we are activists, so we don't get the privilege to always be prepared as well as we wish for. For example, personal story. I have known for a couple of weeks now that I would be giving this talk today at CARE. So I started preparing over a month ago. I had a beautiful schedule. Make notes, do your research, collect your thoughts, and then 2 to 3 weeks before CARE, practice, practice, practice. And then, out of nowhere, this big project comes up. and you have to give up all your work and just focus on this project. It was an international project, whole organization had to do it. It couldn't be postponed, it couldn't be ignored or delegated. So it was so easy for me to panic, so easy. And I almost did. But very quickly, I said to myself, hey, you know your stuff. You've done your research. You've collected your thoughts. So, okay, we have less time than initially planned, but you can still prepare. You still have those couple of days to prepare. And so use them, and use them well. So my advice would be to never miss out on an opportunity to prepare. If you have something coming up, not necessarily public speaking, but for example, another project, an interview, whatever, and you thought you would have a week, 5 days, 4 days to prepare, and in the end you have 2 days, 1 hour, 10 minutes, use them. Because even though it's much less time than you initially planned, it's still going to give you the confidence you need to deliver, to say what you wanted to say. You got this. Whenever you doubt yourself, just have this in front of you. You got this. Get to know yourself already spoke about that. Before we go deeper into the actual tips from me to you on how to build your confidence, I wanted to mention that we're currently working on a public speaking program, because today we are not going to be focusing on techniques, on things like voice modulation, body language, because those are very specific public speaking skills that to me are not necessarily the source of confidence, at least not the major one. But if you're interested in this side of public speaking, you can follow us on social media. I'm International. We will be posting for sure. Within a couple of months, we will be posting a free online public speaking course together that I'm working on together with other activists from Anima International. So just wanted to mention that. If you have any additional questions about this, we can come back to it in the end. And so, as I mentioned a second ago, to me, public speaking, confident public speaking, doesn't come from just being a skillful public speaker in a sense of voice modulation, body language, etc. It comes from a very different source. And so the tips I'm going to share with you are focused on this source. First of all, I would like everybody to forget about public speaking and think about public communication instead. Speaking is a word that implies me talking to you, me talking at you, not expecting your reaction, your input, your feedback. It's just me speaking. And I don't really like that, because without your feedback, without your input, I can't get better. I can't become a better speaker, a better activist, a better professional. So it doesn't make sense. Without your feedback, I don't know if what I'm saying is useful at all. So thinking about public speaking, like public communication, makes it a bit easier for the speaker, but also for you. Because when you think about it, what we're doing right now is like a conversation. Of course, I am talking all the time. And in better conditions, you would be able to, for example, ask me questions during the presentation, like during a lecture, for example, and it would be a two-way street. But still, you're going to ask me some questions later on. Of course, I'm in the spotlight, but we're here together. And in a sense, you're judging me right now, which is okay, because we're people and we judge each other. And the same goes for a conversation. When we have a conversation, we judge each other, not necessarily, this doesn't have to mean something negative. We can judge each other on a base of, wow, that's an interesting idea. She has interesting ideas. Or, I don't know, maybe that's not an interesting idea, but I can tell her my idea, which is more interesting or more relevant or more useful at this time. So when you think about, when you go up on a stage or wherever you give your speech or talk or presentation, whatever, and you think about the other person or the other side as communication partner, it's not so scary anymore, because I don't have any reason to believe that you have bad intentions. You are my communication partner right now. And even though I'm the one who's speaking, the communication goes both ways. And it's very important, especially in being an activist, because we need to communicate with all sorts of people. And whether those are activists, journalists, politicians, corporate representatives, we need their feedback. Because otherwise we're just talking to a wall, and it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't take us anywhere. So forget public speaking and focus on public communication. Second, fight the knowledge curse. It's so easy when you're neck deep in a subject like animal advocacy, animal rights, especially when you work on a particular campaign. It's very easy to forget that other people don't know what you know. And even here today, I believe that we are all on different levels of knowledge on different campaigns, and we're all activists. So imagine if somebody came here today who's not an activist, who's just a random person that loves cats and dogs and just wants to find out more. We can't talk to them in the same way we would talk to each other. We can't talk to people on the street the same way we talk to politicians, journalists, or farmers, for example. So when giving a talk, when giving an interview, always try to figure out who's your audience, how much they know about what you're going to talk about, how engaged they are. Are they people who are likely to support you, to listen to you, or are those people who are the opposite? Are those people who will in some way care about what you're saying, and how you can tailor your message to make it clear and easy to understand for them. This is a big one, and I think it's a very common misconception that public speaking is for extroverts. And maybe I'm not the best example here because I'm an extrovert myself, but I know, like most of activists I know are introverts, and they are amazing activists, amazing communicators, amazing people. And I believe that trying to reserve this field of communication and public speaking to extroverts is very dangerous. We all have different qualities that make us maybe more unique or confident. Again, for example, for me, it's more easy to move around the stage, to gesticulate, to make eye contact. Maybe for other people, it's not so easy. But they are, for example, great listeners. They are more attentive. They are more put together. They are not that chaotic and stuff. So whenever you think, okay, I'm an introvert, it's not for me, just don't believe that. It's not true. And the same goes the other way around. If you're extroverted like me, you can think that you're, and this is also, again, personal story, you can think you're too much. For example, I joined Otwarte Klatki a couple of years ago, and if you know people from Otwarte Klatki, they are introverts. And so when I came, it was really difficult for me at first, because every time I would speak up, I would feel like I'm talking too much. I'm talking too loud. I made a stupid joke. They are annoyed with me. I should shut up now. And those are this was my mind constantly, all the time. And so I tried to become more introverted. You can guess how it worked. It didn't work at all. I was very miserable for a long time. And after I accepted that, okay, they are introverted, I am an extrovert, and that's okay, they told me that they liked it about me because it was something new, it was something different, it was a different kind of energy. So what a waste of time trying to be someone who I wasn't. So the lesson here is whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, just be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else, because people will know. If I tried to be very introverted today, you would know that it's not me, it's not authentic. And people don't like to listen to other people who are not authentic. So just be yourself. Yeah, that's an extroverted me, weather girl. Learn the power of a good story. I think that can be crucial when it comes to public speaking, and especially when you have a very little time and when you don't have the possibility to use visual aids. Learning how to tell a good story without any visual aids, any picture, to paint the picture with your words is extremely helpful when you try to convince people to do something. Another example. This is a photo our activists took, And there are two ways you can tell the story of this fox. The first version goes, this is a fox on a fur farm. Poland is still one of the biggest fur producers in the world. When we conducted an intervention, we noticed this fox because he was staring at us. So the photographer decided to take his photo. Unfortunately, this animal is no longer alive. That's the story. Second version. In 2019, we conducted the largest intervention on a fox farm so far. This fox had been on this farm for many months, neglected, terrified, skinny, and starving. Anytime one of us would walk by his cage, he would lean his paws against cold metal bars and was staring at us straight into our eyes. We didn't know if it was fear or hope. Our activists decided to take his photo. And anytime we do interventions on fur farms, we know that we're not going to be able to save all the animals. But that day, we managed to save 12 foxes. Unfortunately, this fox wasn't one of them. And he was killed shortly after this photo was taken. And this is a true story. And we couldn't save him because there were other animals who needed help more than him. So how you tell a story? Now imagine saying the same story without the photo. It would be even more difficult. And it happens all the time when you go to the radio, for example, and you're talking on the radio and you have just 1 minute to paint the picture. You have to use the right words. You have to express the right emotions and evoke the right emotions. So learning to tell a good story, a good, powerful story, goes a long way. Choose your outfit wisely. This may seem superficial, but let me tell you how many times I made this mistake, including today, to wear new shoes on an occasion like this. My feet are hurting immensely. But what I mean by choose your outfit wisely, I know it may seem stupid or superficial, but believe me, your clothes can work with you or against you when it comes to confidence. And it doesn't necessarily mean how you look. I mean how you feel in your clothes, if you can breathe freely. If your clothes are too tight, you will be doing this, you will be doing this, you won't be able to take a breath. If your hair is in your face, you will be doing this all the time. If you're having a lipstick, you will constantly think about whether you have lipstick on your teeth, which I was doing a second ago. So of course, preach to the choir. You can still do the same mistakes, but what I want you to remember is that you don't have to prove anything to anybody, and what you decide to wear should be a part of your presentation in a sense that it should be a tool that works for you and with you. And so comfortable clothes go a long way again. Stay present, and that's in a sense goes back to the previous point. If you feel very self-conscious, if your clothes are not fitting well, if you're having to fix yourself all the time, you're not going to be able to be present. Worst case scenario, you're not remembering your presentation, you keep thinking about what your next slide is going to be, you keep thinking about what your next sentence is going to be. You can't connect with people if you're not fully present. If you're not fully present, then why bother at all? So all the previous slides, all that we already covered, being prepared, making notes, choosing the right outfit, choosing the right story, all of this is to make you the most confident you can be, to be as present as you can be. Because without this connection, you can't really get your message across. I think, and I've seen it many times, when you try to, for example, memorize your presentation by heart, it never works well. So I always, when I talk about public speaking or public communication, as we already know, I always advise not to learn your presentation by heart, because whenever you forget what your next sentence was or what your next slide is, you're done. It's almost impossible to recover from this, especially when you're stressed. So try to remember like the bullet points, what you want to say, what is your message, what is the most important thing you want people to remember, and then practice to stay present in the moment. Because I believe that if you're not able to do that, you can as well make room for somebody who can, because you come here to connect and not just to listen some raw words. The last thing, and I think if you were to remember anything from this presentation today, I would love it if it was this one, is to lead with passion. And I'm going to ask you a question now, a few of you, for example, a few of you at least, so don't be terrified. Why did you become an activist? Why did you become an activist?
Because I wanted to help animals.
Okay, what did you become an activist?
Because I saw the hurt that the animals were going through, and I don't want that for anyone.
Okay. Why did you become an activist? Yeah.
Because I recognize the injustice of the problem.
Okay. All valid points. So whenever you have doubts, and whenever you have to feel confident about something, not only in public speaking, remember those reasons, because not agreeing to injustice, seeing hurt in animals, seeing pain in animals is super important. And so whenever you need this source of confidence, think about that. Try to imagine me speaking today about cars or airplanes or other thing that is really boring. I wouldn't be so passionate. I wouldn't have the courage and the will to stand in front of you and talk to you about it. But whenever I feel like that, whenever I feel like I don't have anything to say, they will not listen to me, I'm remembering why I do this and who I do this for. And so nobody can tell me that being an activist is not enough of a reason. So what gives me the most confidence? Going in a circle to this key word that we're focusing on today. It's not being a good storyteller. It's not being well-dressed, although that could help. It's not learning all those techniques. It's knowing that nobody in this room and nobody in any room that I go to can tell me that broiler chicken suffering is not important, that aquatic animal welfare is not important, or fur animals' pain is not important, or that the torture that cows go through going to the slaughter is not important. Nobody can tell me that, because I know it is. So that's that's where you should get your confidence from the next time you speak in public. Thank you.
You guys can ask questions through the inventory app. Yeah, and we're going to have a quick Q&A because I've got some questions here.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you, how did your life lead you to public speaking?
Very randomly. When I graduated from Italian philology, I decided I wanted to do something for the animals, and I went to study public relations. And so we had public speaking on this university as a subject. So this was the first time I ever spoke in public intentionally, because of course we all did that in school, for example. And I thought that it's really cool to, speak to other people who want to listen to you about things that are important to you, and to make them care about things that are important to you. And so when I first joined Otwarte Klatki, we needed somebody to take over the media part of our work, the local media part of our work. So I did that, and from then on, I never stopped.
Okay, and what other mistakes, except from clothing, have you made during your public speaking journey?
I make them all the time. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I had a very nice ending line, and I forgot it. I was going to tell you to not be afraid to be heard and to make people listen to you. So I make them all the time. I think the biggest obstacle for me is never having enough time to prepare. And this happens all the time. For example, when we have some media interviews, it usually happens very rapidly. It's not really planned. So the mistakes I make are usually, for example, I tend to do these long pauses. I hope that I didn't do them today. For example, which is really distracting, and I don't like to do this. And you can certainly practice and get rid of those but they happen. So that's one. The other one is, I think clothing needs to be mentioned twice, because that's the mistake I make every single time and I never learn. And other one, I think I would say that in the beginning I'm very good at breathing, and then in the middle somewhere I always forget to breathe. Mm-hmm. So I would say these three are, key problems.
And I wonder that you talked about how breathing helps you relax and how being prepared helps you. But what are other preparations that you've done to be better at public speaking?
I think what can help you the most is practicing out loud to yourself or to other people. If you can do it in front of other people, that's great, because they can give you feedback. I did it before this presentation. I only did it myself, so that was a bit sad to me, because nobody could tell me what to improve. But getting feedback, not being scared of feedback, is also really cool. If you have people like other activists, fellow activists, your colleagues, or your family, or somebody you trust, it's very useful to talk to them, give the presentation to them, and let them give you feedback, because they can notice, for example, that you're touching your neck all the time, or that you're staring down, or any other habits that you have that you might not realize that you have. And then you can work on them to make your general appearance even better. So practicing out loud, I would say that's the most important and the most useful one.
And what tips would you give to a person who's too emotionally connected to what he's about to say?
Well, wow, that's a good one. Fighting the knowledge curse, because when you're very connected emotionally, you can get hyped up and forget that people are not as hyped up as you, and they don't know as much as you. That's the first one. The second one, I think, and again, I'm talking from an extrovert perspective. For example, for me, it's difficult to calm myself. I would be like this all the time if I wasn't trying to constantly calm myself down. But I know for other people, it's the other way around. They need to force themselves to move around this stage. So it's difficult for me to give advice. I would say, like calm your emotions down by breathing, by being present. Because that's what I'm always thinking about. To be present, to be how to phrase it. I try for my message and myself to be as clear and easy to understand for you as possible. That not always works, but that's what I try to do.
And do you think like being energetic and all over the place is a bad thing when you're publicly speaking?
No, I did. I used to think that, but now I don't. I mean, now I think you need to be yourself. If I'm too much for somebody, that's not my problem anymore. That's what I think.
And in terms, do you have any thoughts on what role humility, open-mindedness, and listening plays in confidence and communication?
Listening and what?
Listening, humility, and open-mindedness.
Yes, they are crucial to communication, even in public speaking. Open-mindedness and listening in a sense that sensing your audience's reactions is crucial. As I said, communication is two-way street. So if you don't listen to what other person says or how they react, I mean, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you're speakers as well, but I can see every single move you make. If somebody turns away, laughs, or I don't know, crouches, starts doing something on their phone, I can see just kidding.
But we're moderating our
just
phones.
Kidding. But I can see everything that you do, and I sense that in a way that, okay, maybe that wasn't interesting. Maybe I lost myself. So then I try to pick up the pace or pick up in some more interesting points. So reading people, not only verbally but non-verbally, is really important in any type of communication.
Okay, so that's interesting. That's very interesting. Adapting what you're saying to what the others is doing. It's like another level, isn't it? Because
Yeah, it's very difficult to public speak about public speaking because there is a lot of pressure. And I mean, I felt a lot of pressure to be, this perfect public speaker, and I am not in any way. As you can see, I forgot my last point, which was like the most important part of the presentation. But it's okay. I mean, we're all practicing, and I think my power is being passionate about communication, and so I try to show people that public speaking is about communication and that it's important and really fun. If you change your perspective and start seeing this as something very useful and fun, it's really pleasant to do. So I was stressed today, I'm not gonna lie, but every second here talking to you was a pleasure. And it's always like that for me now, because it didn't used to be like this. So I would say, yeah, even if you're not an expert, just do your best for the animals.
Yeah, I'm glad that it was a pleasure to talk to us, but to have some more questions, I would ask you, do you have any tips on bettering your enunciation?
Yes. If you're thinking about professional public speaking or public communication, I would say to use help of a vocal coach. That would be very useful. Yeah.
Very good tip on enunciation is to read books and read it aloud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's been very helpful for me.
Yeah. Did everybody hear?
That a good tip is to read aloud books.
Yeah.
And what you
Practicing out loud.
And on the very positive note,
Yeah.
what was your best public speaking experience?
This. What was I supposed to say?
Except from this.
Except from this, do you want to tell us a story? Because I think that maybe the person that wanted to ask the question wanted a story, maybe.
Did you? No, really, this. I mean, I was really excited. I was really scared at first. Okay, I don't like the word scared. I wasn't scared, but I was a bit agitated before this talk because I haven't given a real life talk because of the pandemics, of course, in a very long time. So I was feeling it, but I was really excited because usually I talk to the media or I talk to politicians, and I know that they don't care as much as you do. So it's really nice to talk to people who I know that care about all this stuff and that want to be better activists, because that's not an everyday occasion. So yeah, this, today.
And how do you deal with people who don't agree with you? Maybe in the context of talking about activism, veganism, in a place where it's not all vegans and activists.
It's definitely okay if somebody doesn't agree with you. I think there is a point. Yesterday, I asked Tobias this question: where is the line where you stop talking to somebody because they are being toxic towards you, and when do you try still to convince them to something? And I think that the same goes for any type of communication. If somebody is very rude and disrespectful, that I don't feel the responsibility to give back. But if somebody has an honest question and they don't agree, that's fine. I mean, I love to discuss different things. I like to believe that I am open-minded, and I try to, learn about all the perspectives that they are. So I in no means I think that I am right about anything. I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily the case.
Okay, so thank you very much for the lecture. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to host you.